Welcome to the Void. I am the Void, and today we're going through something that, frankly, belongs thrown back into me, because what this video is about is complete nonsense in the best way possible. It belongs back in the Void where it can't hurt anyone and no one can believe it. It's Mud Fossil University. Mud Fossil University is a channel that this guy runs, and if you know what pareidolia is, it's basically pareidolia, the channel. If you don't, pareidolia is the effect of seeing faces and other structures that aren't really there in rocks. It's basically pattern seeking, but hyped up to 11. So if you see the old man on the mountain, back in New Hampshire, before that fell off the mountain, that was a face. Actually, let's look that up, shall we? Old man of the mountain, New Hampshire. Let's go to images. So what this is, it's just a rock formation, right? Oh, it's gone now. But you can see it's just a rock that happens to have the profile of a human face. There's other looks at it that are further away, but you can see, like, because we are pattern-seeking individuals, we look for human faces. Just that's how our mind works. And with this one, you can see, like, the brow ridge, the forehead, eyes, a nose, goes down, and there's a mouth, goes down, there's a chin. What's really happening is just jointing that's worn away the lower rocks, and you can see, like, there's a joint here, follow it back, follow this back, it sort of fades out into a vertical joint, and then that's it. Here you see another joint. So this is a level of rock. This is a level. This is another weathering level. This is just loose and sitting on top. This is supporting everything right here. It's just rock. That's all it is. But we see a pattern in it because that's what we do as people. So it's a shame that it's fallen. It was really fun to watch, to see. But that's what we're going to be looking at now, is some guy who does this stuff and thinks that the whole earth is just a battleground for giants and dragons and all sorts of mythical creatures that all died out in the flood. And the way that we find evidence of that is fossils in regular old rocks. Not like an actual fossil, but like one of those river stones that you pick up and it's like, it looks round, you're like, oh hey, this looks like an egg. That level of scientific rigor when examining these rocks to see if they're actually fossils. That's what this guy believes in. Let's see what he's talking about today. This will be a good introduction to his research? Question mark?
And if you don't think there was giant fish and giant dragons on the earth,
Oh boy.
feast upon this. This right here in North Africa
Don't freeze on me, please.
is a gigantic fish.
Oh, that's a fish. That's not a mountainscape. That's not the shape of geologic formations that have arisen and been the result of tectonics and geologic history. That, my friends, is a giant fish. Absolutely. That is the one giant fish that is so big you can fit an entire country on it. Yeah.
That's the tail right here. And that's the
Where's the tail?
fin. And these are the scales.
Scales. Definitely not wrinkles of geologic time and weathering and tectonic forces that have formed natural patterns on various scales, including giant scales such as this. I mean, If you told me this was zoomed into a micro level on a rock, I would believe you because the structures are functionally the same. It's just that we're on a big scale. So the fact that he thinks this is actually a fish is really telling for his ability to synthesize information. Also, I want to point out this right here. This looks like a face to me. You have an eye, you have an eye, you have a nose, you have a mouth right here. The chin is a little cut off, but you see a face right here. Definitely a fish. Oh no, now I see it. Now I see right here. Right here's the head of the fish and the jaw, and there's an eye right there, and that's probably a gill, is what he's saying. So it's like a giant salmon? I don't know. That's my best guess about what he's seeing.
And that's the fin right up there. And this fin is being attacked by this gigantic dragon.
Oh, yep. So if you don't see it, so you have a square-headed, tiny-headed dragon. So I don't know why it's attacking this giant fish down below it, but it thinks it can take on this salmon and actually eat it with a head that's so small it would easily be swallowed by the other fish. But you have this boxy-headed dragon. Again, also, another point. If it's boxy-headed like that, it's probably a vegetarian because that's better for collecting a lot of plant material. Predators tend to have narrow, long snouts that they can bite into flesh easier and like manipulate, twist and manipulate their mouth to better access food around stuff like ribs and bone.
And that gigantic dragon, his throat runs right down here.
Eye, face,
all the way down. And that
neck.
throat is completely covered with dragon scales, obviously.
Okay, what are these? Does anyone know? Class, does anyone know what these are? Like, first off, let's just enjoy the fact that he thinks regular mountain shapes, like that's a mountain range right there, and you can see how the rock has sort of been pushed away and pushed down as the weathering continues to wear these things back down into the earth. Let's just enjoy that what he thinks is scales is just a weathering feature. Does anyone know what these are actually called? I believe they're called horse. I forget what they're called. Mountains, weathering structures. Let's find out. There is a name for that structure. I just can't remember what it is. It's like the tip of my tongue. It does look cool when we find it. Let's see if we can. Let's see if Google will be helpful for us. Can we find it? Can we find it? No. Doesn't look like Google's going to be any help. Alright, well, suffice to say, it is a weathering feature that happens because you can see how it's dipped here, and there's the soil here is darker. It dips here, the soil here is darker. It dips here, it's darker, and you can see a canal as if water is rushing through it. All this is a weathering feature where the water carves its way through the rock like a pachinko machine, just bouncing off of areas of harder rock and through areas of softer rock, going ding, 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 and it creates these triangle sort of iron shapes in the actual rock that are 3D reliefs. And if you follow them all the way to the bottom, you'll often find alluvial fans like this, where an alluvial fan is where all of the material that's being washed out of the mountain settles. It's this wide area of deposited sediment. Often you see them in river deltas and whatnot, where the ground can be suddenly wide and flat, and the material can just sit and won't have to move as much. That's what's happened. That's all that this is. And he thinks, granted they do look cool, so I understand it, but he thinks these are scales.
Because of dragon.
Mm.
scales on its throat.
Yep.
And you
Yep.
can
But look how regular these are. Like you could see all the way down the same formations, the same weathering patterns along this entire mountain range. Like that's impressively consistent geologic material right there. If you ever think that, like, oh, it's just science. Science is like it's just nature. Nature is too chaotic. There's not enough patterns in the world to like really track. No, the thing about geology is everything's a pattern and everything works through the same processes, the same laws, um, the same processes, laws. It works. It will appear the same through because it goes through the same things no matter where you look. And this is a great example where all along this entire mountain range, which is miles and miles and miles, you see a steep side where there must not be a lot of water and a more gradual side that has more weathering. And you can see the effects of it all the way down. That's heckin' cool. That's heckin' impressive to me. As someone who can zoom out and see the same thing just repeated across this rock for miles because it is literally the same thing. Mwah. Mwah. Love it. I love to see it.
see, and they're in little bunches, you see.
Hmm?
That gives it flexibility so the thing can move its
Flexibility. I love this dude. I love this dude so much.
plates. Now, as it runs down through its body, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down, all the way, it got Gash right here. Something cut its throat, and there is ancient text about.
No. That's either a road or a fault line or it's just a road. It's either a river, a fault line, or a road, and I don't know which it is just based on like I don't have Google Maps to pull it up and examine it myself, but that could be any sort of structure. There's no guarantee that that's a river, could be a fault line. Frankly, though, I think I'd love the fact that he thinks that something this massive could have its throat sliced so cleanly and then just be laid in one piece like this. That's beautiful to me.
He would cut its throat with his great and mighty sword. And that would have to be pretty great and mighty.
It would indeed. Look at that. Okay, so now we get a sense of scale. So we're in Tunisia, right? Morocco and Tunisia, right around here. Here's Gibraltar, right over here. And you can see the structure that he's pointing at now, how it's this sort of mountain range that's being pushed up and along the edge of what the rest of this mountain range must be from an old orogeny where mountains were pushed up as it hit into Europe, which is the same reason that Spain is so mountainous as well. They're the same mountain range, just separated by expansion and water that's settled into the space between.
It bled right out here in the desert. This is the effluent. This dragon runs across
Blood?
the entire north of Africa.
Where does it
And all
end?
of
Where's its
green
body?
into
I'm
the
so
ocean.
confused.
And there's some text about the ocean or the earth opened its mouth and swallowed the waters that were trying to drown a woman or something like that. And
What?
this all ran out. This all ran out of here. Now,
Yeah, you can see how there's you can actually see the drainage of this entire continent, at least this entire coast right here. You can see how the wind and the water have pushed grains of sand down this way with the coloring of the rocks and the way that the dark colors sort of bleed in this direction. And it's consistent as you follow it. It comes down out here and washes out to the coast. Like, that's cool. It's not blood. It's just iron-rich rock over here. I don't know why exactly. I've never really studied African geology, but it's just a more iron-rich area. That's all it is.
Waters were where they were chasing some woman. I have no idea. There's so much to talk about now.
There is.
Because all the
There
things
is.
that were just considered just absolute insanity. Words that were just meaningless, crazy stuff. And now it's taken on a meaning that, well, let's say to put it this way, it's taken on new meaning. It's something we should investigate.
I agree. Let's investigate it. First thing in my investigation, are these actually fossils of animals? Or is it just we are seeing patterns that aren't actually there? Results of my investigation, just at a cursory glance, we are seeing patterns that aren't actually there. It looks cool, it's a nice story, but that's not what's happening. Sorry, dude.
The Cape Verde Islands, I believe, when this all ran out. You see how it's piled up here and then it swishes off to the sides. Exactly what would happen from all this mud. And Plato said when
Mud?
Atlantis
That's
collapsed,
sand.
which I think
But
this is
sure,
Atlantis,
why not?
so much mud.
Whoa. I have to know what's happening here. I'll look it up another time. But that like perfectly circular formation there that's been covered up by sand somewhat, that's incredible. I wonder if that's man-made, like maybe that's the remains of a city or something. Or it's just perfectly natural. That is so curious to me. I love stuff like that. Earth is cool, y'all. Rocks are awesome.
And Atlantis was up right outside the straits, they said. Well, what straits, Roger? Well, I'm glad you asked.
What? Where are we?
Because that looks like it's pretty straight straits to me.
Hang on. Hang on. Okay. Straits? Does he know what a strait is? A strait is a narrow body of water between two pieces of land. Like usually a long body of water between two pieces of land. It's not like so much a river as it is connecting two large bodies. This is not a strait. This is a straight line. Okay. Straight, as he's meaning it, is S-T-R-A-I-T. Straight, as in a straight line, is S-T-R-A-I-G-H-T. Different words. They're homophones, but they're different words. Also, a straight is salty. I'm getting salty after watching this video. This is getting like to new levels of absurd. I just can't get over that he's mixing these up. This is like mixing up there, and there. That's probably man-made too.
And guess what? What is this doing here?
Oh no, I stand corrected. It's a ridge. This is probably a... Oh, I think I know what this is. Again, this is just conjecture based on observations from a large scale without going to actually investigate. But what I believe this is this is a rock formation that has been preserved because it is harder than the surrounding rocks that have been turned into sand. And so what we see is that this rock is actually standing above the rest of the sand, above the rest of the substrate, enough that we can even see that level of elevation change in satellite. And you can see that this whole formation, this rock is much grayer than the surrounding sand. It is, it looks to be much more mountainous and rough and like actually solid, whereas this area around it seems to be covered in sand and completely weathered and broken down into grains. This has remained locked together. So this is a really cool look at how formations sort of fade, how you can find different formations across Earth's surface. You can just see you can see the entire formation right here in relief, literally. It's beautiful.
That is the swish of the wish.
Swish of the wish! Swish of the wish, folks! It's the swish of the wish!
Whoosh and a whoosh.
Swoosh of the wish.
Washed over.
this dude. I love this dude so much.
Out Italy.
Atlantis. Sure, why not? Swoosh of the whoosh. Okay, come on, YouTube. You can do it. I don't know why it's slowing down now. It's been working fine so far. Nope, that's not the one I need. Quality. 720, please. Now we'll actually be able to see this stuff in detail, instead of having it be so blurry. Also, we might not get through this video today, but that's okay. I'm just having fun listening to this guy. This guy's real blast, honestly. Swoosh of the whoosh of the Atlantis, of Atlantis being sunk in the flood. Like, you can't get much better than this, honestly. You can't get much better. This dude is... Okay, let's get back a bit so the computer has something to load into. No? Still struggling? Alright, we'll come back to this video and move on with the next one. Can any geologist explain this? Well, I'm not a professional geologist, but I do have a bachelor's of science in that field, which is probably more than this guy has, because if he had any basic knowledge of how this stuff worked, he wouldn't be saying this stuff. So, let us see exactly what question he wants us to answer.
Alright, here's what I want you to focus in on. You see that little spot of gray?
Uh-huh. Oh, hello, he zoomed in. Okay, gonna skip back so we can actually watch him zoom in, because I feel like that's important. Quality, 720. Gotta make sure it stays at 720. Because I want to make sure I can see the grains here.
What I want you to focus in on. You see that little spot of gray?
Come on, YouTube. Please work for me.
You see
There
that?
we go. Wow. Look at that
Well,
texture on that rock. That's
I said
really...
before, and
that's
you can
really
easily
fun.
see,
I like that.
this
I like that texture.
footprint has forced
Footprint?
its way through
Wait.
this layer here.
What are you... That's not a footprint. It's not a footprint. Hang on. I gotta skip back so I can try to see what he's looking at. Where is this footprint?
Footprint has forced its way.
Where is this
I
footprint?
said before, and you can easily see.
I can't
this
see.
You see that?
Okay. Okay, so we zoom in and we see that this rock has a very speckled texture to it. Sort of as if it's like actually weathered and actually like a mudstone. That is at least what I would guess based on looking at this. I can't be there to test it. It might be like a dolomite or a limestone. Pretty easy to test. Pretty easy test to determine what it actually is. But I can't say for certain beyond probably sedimentary and fine-grained.
Well, I said before, and you can easily see.
Can we?
This footprint has forced its way.
Footprint. Does anyone see the footprint? I'm trying here. Like, okay, we have this arch here. Is it like, is this the heel? Is that what he's saying? Is like this a heel of a foot? Because that would be a really big foot of an animal that I don't know has ever existed.
This layer here that was the red bed. That's about as red as it gets.
No, I've seen redder. I legitimately have seen redder. That looks like there's been some slight iron that has settled into the lower levels of this mud or whatever it ends up being. I can't tell exactly, but doesn't look particularly out of the normal range of red to me.
And this is the red bed that was below this gray clay, because the gray clay was forced through, because I could see the gray clay on the other side of the red bed. You see the red bed?
Okay, this is interesting.
Here?
This is interesting, actually. Hang on.
Oh.
Okay, so, Here we can see a clear line of sedimentation between this gray shale or slate or mudstone or whatever it is and this more red layer. Now, I don't know if these are actually distinct layers or if it's just a chemically distinct weathering pattern that some of it was more exposed than other parts of it. And that is something that can happen a lot and something we have to be aware of, where the parts of the rock that are exposed to the atmosphere and to the surface are going to weather more. And when iron is weathered, when iron is oxygenated, it rusts. And that's when iron turns gray. It goes from Fe+2 to Fe+3 and turns red. So I can't tell from this if that is a weathering issue or if it's a distinct layer. If it's a distinct layer, this becomes considerably more interesting. But as of right now, it's a float. It's a rock that is that is not in situ. It is not in its original position. So I can't tell beyond speculation. Ectobard. Like, maybe I can kind of fudge out the front of a foot. You can see the front of a footprint? You can see the front of one. I mean, you see more than I do, clearly. I only saw a heel. You'll have to show me when he puts the rock back together.
You can see these colors. And the gray clay has pushed its
Gray
way
clay.
through.
We don't know. I don't know that it's clay. I don't think that it's clay because this speckled texture here usually happens when you have grains that are larger than clay. So I would assume the grains, again, this is speculation, based only on what I can see here. I don't even have a hand lens to look at this. I would assume that the grains in this rock are between silt and fine sand. Clay is a much, much finer grain size than that. Something that you can't even see with a hand lens. But this looks rough enough that if I had a hand lens of 5 times magnification, I would be able to see the grain sizes. So I don't think it's clay, but he's also an amateur who is using this language casually, so I totally understand that mix-up in communication. That's fine. Just wanted to clear that out.
Because the guy stepped on it. So that means...
Okay, so are we back on the front?
It had to be this way.
Dang it, come on YouTube,
Black
move.
cap went on top.
I want to see this stupid... There we go.
It had to be this way. The
What?
black cap went on top. That's the black cap.
Okay. Oh, now I see. Okay, I just had to reorient myself. Now I see, like, this is sort of the front of a foot, and it extends down this way. I got you.
Cap. That's that, right? Whoops. Can you see that? No, you can't.
Yeah, there you go. Move your hand so I can... Oh, hold on.
Let's back this up a little bit. You can see everything in one shot.
I don't... Okay, here in this particular lighting, where it's made to accentuate the indentations, there's a toe. But again, this is just pattern seeking. This isn't actually something that we're seeing. Here we see his idea of what it is. The black cap mud with the other layers underneath. That's likely not what's happening. It's just a weathering issue.
No. I hope you saw this before. I should probably start over, but I'm not gonna.
It's a good thing he's so
That
rigorous that
is-
he's very concerned with being very precise and presenting things accurately, that he is going to continue with this presentation rather than start over for the sake of accuracy and clarity. Good job, dude. You know what you're doing. Sarcasm. Very much sarcasm.
The footprint pushed through the red bed.
No.
That is the gray clay. The gray clay is now on the other side of the red bed.
what that looks like to me is a concretion of either another layer or perhaps the same layer that just broke off a little easier due to weathering and other issues. I say weathering a lot. Weathering is the process of water and chemical processes as well as physical processes that break down a rock, break it down into smaller pieces. It's not erosion. That is the process of the stuff moving from where it is to another area, usually like downhill or downstream. Weathering is how it breaks up.
The only way for that to have happened was it was on top of here and they were both wet at the same time. There is no, I mean, if you could think of a different way, just let me know because I'd love to.
Yeah, I think you're just seeing shapes and
got pushed
creating patterns and solutions where they don't need to exist.
through here at the same time. The red bed was wet. The gray clay was wet. The guy was running his little behind off and his heel hit here and he went boop like that and just
Wait,
continued.
no, that doesn't even look like a. Okay, so you're saying the heel was here? Then why is it like this? This doesn't. This is not a human foot. You're talking about it like it's a human, but that's not a human foot. That's not what our feet look like.
On and just went these little
Oh.
circles, those little tiny little dimply looking things, all pulled up from because it was wet at the same time. That's the edge of his foot. It's not.
No, that's just a crack of weathering. That happens all the time.
To me, that indicates no question whatsoever. These things were wet at the same time. Now,
Probably because they might even be the same layer, just exposed
see these little
differently.
suck-ups. Those are not something. If it rained and so forth, those would have probably been destroyed. However, guess what did happen? Hold on.
Probably would have been destroyed. I mean, you're not wrong, but the stuff would have to be covered somehow, right?
This instantaneous came down, which is this black cat,
Oh
right
no.
on top to seal up.
Oh
the
no.
footprint
Oh no. What is he saying now?
and save all of these little suck-ups.
That's.
These are important to understand the suck-ups.
What is a
We're
suck
all
up?
big deal suck-ups. Well, how would they have preserved themselves in such perfect condition? And these little.
Okay, so it sounds like he's an amateur geologist who like wants to be a geologist and sort of knows the language. He's talking about how this stuff is preserved in perfect condition and how something came on to capture the print almost instantaneously. Like this is stuff I would hear at a geologic documentary or something. But it's not actually what's happening. This isn't right.
little they would have washed away, and actually they did wash away quite a bit because I washed this, and at first I saw it on and I said, what the hell is that? It looks like it's got pimples or something, little dimples all over. And
Yeah, it's clearly a weathering
right,
pattern.
you can see them all over, and this is where the edge of the foot.
So those dots are either just mineral grains that have fallen out, or it's just the texture of the other layers of rock around it that it was pushed into when it was preserved, or it's the effect of, again, weathering and erosion pulling out grains and wind like digging in holes in little areas that creates this sort of speckled texture. Because in that case it would be wind picking up grains as it blows, hitting this rock, sort of scraping off little bits in random places, and over time that can create more larger and larger holes. If that's the case, these are pretty sizable and pretty common, like pretty frequent. So it's kind of impressive.
Sort of pushed in and kept it from dimpling there, and there wasn't enough suck up to make it
What is a
create the
suck up?
bumpy looking stuff.
Bumpy looking
Whether you
stuff?
can see that or
What
not,
is-
this is, I never can tell. See the little bumpy looking things?
Yeah, we see it. You showed it to us earlier. We get it.
Right. You can see there's no.
I'm surprised he
right here,
doesn't think it's skin, honestly. It looks like
the same thing.
really
It's
rough skin
but
in texture.
that's the edge, and there's no bubble of suction. Let's go with that.
What
That's
is he
why you don't
talking
have them on
about?
the edges.
There's never any suction in the earth. The earth. Okay, I shouldn't say that. There are bubbles of lower pressure that other things are sucked into, or lower concentration that other things are sucked into, but that's not how this all works.
So this was wet, and these little things were preserved instantly. So all of these three things happened at the same time, which would be exactly what you would expect if there was this cataclysm that I'm talking about, where Venus almost hit the Earth.
Venus almost hit what?
Boiled everything.
What? Hang on. Is that what does he think Venus like almost KT boundaried the Earth? Does he think it just bam hit the Yucatan, or like just missed the Yucatan, and that's why we have the giant floods? Does he think that because Venus is hot, so if it got close to us, we would also be hot? I love this. I love this so much. This is hysterical. I cannot get over this. Oh my gosh. The earth overheated. Everything boiled. Everything was cooked. Everything cooked the flesh. Yeah, there was no aquatic life left alive after that. Our ecosystems were decimated. I don't know how we still have plankton and fish and sharks and all of that stuff. Must be a mystery, because nothing could have survived that much boiling earth. Oh my gosh, this thing is beautiful.
It caused the iron-rich oxides to collect all over the earth from the body parts.
Oh no.
Blood. And then somehow this guy survived. I don't know how he did it. And then all of the ashes that were in the air from all the volcanoes erupted. They said every volcano on Earth erupted. And that is not just in one text.
That's not what happened. There's no evidence that all the volcanoes on the Earth erupted at one time. That's not even possible. There's been more volcanoes like that have existed, gone extinct, and eroded away than there have been than is possible to make explode. Look at Hawaii, right? Hawaii is a hot spot where the volcano erupts into an island, and then it continues to move, and then you get a new island. That's what Hawaii is. So what if every volcano erupts? Would every volcano in the Hawaiian island chain all erupt at the same time? Because we would find evidence of that. We would find relatively fresh volcanic material on every island all at once, which we don't, because that is a lot of material that does not exist. Like, we can age all of that volcanic material, and we can see that it's in a progression, not a it's not all at once. Oh my gosh, this is fun.
And there was all kinds of issues, and this pretty much solves just about everything.
Oh, does it?
No, I keep moving this thing in and out, and I'm not sure what you're seeing or not. But
oh no.
Let's go with what we got.
Well, I hope I answered his question. The answer was pareidolia, and just a misinterpretation of what he's actually looking at. I can't tell him what it is, but I can give him options of what it might be, and what it might be is not what he believes it to be. It's just a siltstone or a mudstone that has iron concentrations distributed around it, and some of it got oxygenated or weathered. That is my best guess based on what I was looking at. Doll source. The volcano's super fence underwater would like to have a word with this man. Yeah, please have a word with him, because, man, imagine if Yellowstone erupted. Like, we are overdue for that, because it's been a few thousand or 100 years or something. It's been long enough that, like, we were, like, quote unquote overdue. We're really fine, honestly, but still, Yellowstone hasn't erupted in way too long. And we still know it didn't explode at the same time as Pompeii, or at the same time as Vesuvius, or Mount St. Helens, or the Siberian Traps, or what's another one? Krakatoa. Aragonite, hey, welcome. We just finished up with Mud Fossil. Yeah, this guy was he's interesting. Definitely be coming back to cover him again because I'm in love with his ideas and his mistakes. He is wrong in all the best ways. I'm still not over the fact that he thinks Venus almost hit the Earth and that superheated the Earth and caused the flood. Like, that is the greatest conspiracy nonsense I've ever heard. I love it so much. We need more of this level of crazy. Anyways, let me know what y'all think down in the void below. Hit like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Ring the bell, all the YouTube stuff. Remember, the void loves you.